From your mama.
Shit came on. I'm the wrong man to play with. I did publish a book called The Signifying Monkey.
I had that in mind when I said that.
Well, tell your daddy I said
No.
And about those shoes I left under your mouth.
Oh. Yes, indeed. I said you're an esteemed scholar, Dr. Oh, man.
Well, this is going to be a fun session. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to hear Harry Allen's presentation, and we're also thrilled that alum fellow Nikki Green is here. Oh, good. To do the introduction. Nikki Green is Associate Professor of Art at Wellesley College, and as an art historian, she explores African and African American identities, music, the body, feminism, and performance art from the 19th to the 21st century. Her groundbreaking book, Grime, Glitter, and Glass, The Body and the Sonic in Contemporary Black Art, has been recently published by Duke University Press. A highly respected and sought-after curator, she has served as an advisor to the ICA here in Boston for the 59th Venice Biennale, presenting the work of Simone Lee for the U.S. Pavilion in 2022. Recently, she curated Taking the White Gloves Off, a performance art series in honor of Lorraine O'Grady 55 to accompany the exhibition Lorraine O'Grady Both And. She has served as a co-producer of When We Gather, a short film based on a vision by Maria Magdalena Campos Pons, who was moved by the election of Kamala Harris as VP-elect of the U.S., and directed by filmmaker Cody Elaine Oliver. The list of her work and honors is nearly endless. Please welcome Professor Nikki Green.
Thank you. When I saw Krishna as I exited the elevator, I said, I'm home. So it's nice to be back with you, Skip, and thank you. And when Harry asked me to introduce him, I said, yeah, I'm gonna be there anyway, because Harry Allen is the kind of person that once you know him and love him, you are an eternal super fan. And so I am grateful to introduce the fabulous Harry Allen, hip hop activist and media assassin. He's written about race, politics, and culture for over 35 years. He began by covering hip hop in Vibe magazine, The Source, The Village Voice, and other publications. He's been quoted as an expert in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, on National Public Radio, MTV, VH1, CNN, the BBC, among other sites. Allen serves as an advisor to the Archives of African American Music and Culture at Indiana University, and to the Universal Hip Hop Museum, opening in 2026 in the Bronx, New York. From 2003 to 2015, he was the host and producer of the weekly WBAI-NY FM radio show, Nonfiction. Harry worked in the Crisis PR Public Affairs Department of computer entertainment giant Rockstar Games from 2004 to 2006. He considers his credit on the hit title Grand Theft Auto San Andreas his proudest byline. Some of you in here probably know that intimately. As well, his early and singular research on architectural design in computer and video games has been recognized by the Graham Foundation, the Smithsonian Institution's Lemelson Center for the Study of Invention and Innovation, the New York State Council on the Arts, the Architectural League of New York, and the MacDowell Colony. Of course, many know Harry Allen for his longtime association with the iconic Public Enemy and for his widely heard cameo on the classic record Don't Believe the Hype. Alan has lectured at colleges and universities around the country, speaking about documentary photos he made of Public Enemy's members before the band was formed. This talk here features images that have been shown in documentaries and magazines. Many of them are also now part of the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of African American History and Culture's permanent collection. Alan is both a 2007 and 2025 Nasir Jones Hip Hop Fellow here at the Hutchins Center at Harvard. I got to know Harry during our time here as fellow fellows in 2016 and 2017, and one of my fondest memories is in this room when that illustrious cohort had a prom. And we got down and boogied. And so if anybody needs photographic evidence of Harry Allen behind the 1 and 2s, singing Belle Biv DeVoe with me and another colleague, Treva Lindsay, you remember, I have the evidence. It happens. Other cohorts can aspire to such greatness. Okay. He is also a 2020 CAST, Center for Arts, Science, and Technology visiting artist at MIT. He recently founded HARD, Harry Allen R&D, a boutique for developing singular and outrageous projects. Let's talk, Harry. Wow. Okay. 2 of those HARD projects are GRR, Global Race Report, a collaboration with Morgan State University's Institute for Urban Research, and Harbanger, the turntablist septet he formed at MIT. Alan lives with his wife, his beautiful wife, Zakiya, near Washington, D.C. Please give a warm welcome to Harry Allen.
Thank you. Excellent introduction. Thank you.
Greetings. For my talk today, I'm going to discuss what Harbinger is, how the idea for it came together, why I did it, my challenges, my questions, and my vision of the future. Then I'll play some videos we've shot and some music we've made. Then I'll take your questions, comments, suggestions, or complaints. Before I do, though, there are many to thank. Jesus, thank you for your rescue and for your peace in turbulent times like these. Amen. As you said in John 16, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Skip, Abby, and Krishna, you created and administer a resource which opens the riches of Harvard University to us and the riches we bring to them. Thank you. Oh, by the way, here's something no one ever said about the Hutchins Center. You get a nice office, but the staff is nasty. To the staff, those who are here, there are far too many of you to thank by name, Velma, but you're the ones who make everything not only easy, but possible. Thank you. To my fellows, I'm inspired by the breadth of your intellects and the warmth of your collegiality. Thank you for your many, many generosities. And special thanks to Dr. Nikki A. Green, who so kindly introduced me. I've always been taken with her scholarly unpretentiousness and hilarity. She's the author, by the way, of a new book, Grime, Glitter, and Glass, about Black art and sound. Get a copy. To my wife, Zakiya, you always have my back, and you're the one I want to impress the most.
Who wrote that line? You didn't write that.
And finally, to all of you, friends, acquaintances, allies, and enemies, either here or watching online, Thank you. I also want to recognize, is Mark Katz here? Beautiful. Mark Katz is a distinguished scholar. I love his books, Capturing Sound, Build, Groove Music. My copy, I left it upstairs for him to sign. And his new book, Rap and Redemption on Death Row, he wrote it with Aline Braxton. These are important texts. Is Brian here? Brian Coleman? Brian. Rakim told me, check the technique. They're texts that if you're in love with hip hop, you have to own. Is Alan here? Alan Jenkins? No? Alan Jenkins is a law professor here at Harvard, and he and Gan Golan did a graphic novel called 1/6. It's a story of what would have happened on January 6th if the revolution there had worked. Probably what's happening now. So,
Yeah, it did work.
it did work, yeah, right, sad. And I see my good friends, Bobby Bangers and DJ Emo Betta from Harbinger in the back. Just wave, gentlemen. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. There are so many others to thank, but I'd be here all day. So, just one more, Murray Foreman. Murray, where are you? Beautiful. Murray Foreman, another important scholar for his books, That's the Joint, and the one that wowed me, The Hood Comes First. Please buy the books of all these important authors, especially if you want to know how hip hop works and is constructed. Thank you. In the summer of 2015, my wife and I left New York City for Maryland. That June, I also left behind almost any interest I had in writing about hip hop, doing so as a freelance journalist, something I'd done at that point for nearly 30 years. Is my slide on? Okay, great. I had a great run. I'd written Jay-Z's first Vibe cover story, and a decade and a half before I became a Nas fellow, I did Nas's for Vibe as well. By word count, I wrote most of the Village Voice's legendary 1988 Hip Hop Nation special issue. With my Canon TX, I shot a debuting artist named LL Cool J. Hanging out with my friend and mentor, Chuck D, I was photographed with people like Grandmaster Flash, Ice-T, and many others. But now I was done. I was done, mainly for 4 reasons. 1, for years, print media had been dying at an astonishing rate. Magazines were getting thinner and smaller, and the pay rates websites offered were merely insults. 2, hip-hop artistry seemed to be atomizing. There seemed to be fewer and fewer dominant, truly compelling performers, few stars. Who are these guys? Replaced instead by a scurrying mass of tiny, disposable hopefuls. 3, my own career wasn't going well. Beyond the downsizing... Don't laugh, that's my career. Beyond the downsizing marketplace, my efforts to get any number of book projects off the ground hadn't worked. Besides being less sure about the music, I was also less sure I could sustain a living as a journalist, and even less sure about my role in it as I got older. And 4, hip-hop seemed almost completely and utterly commercialized.
Reese's. What's that pear, that pecs, that bunch? The unique taste, so creamy with a crunch. PB&C is what I'm thinking of, and it only could be found in my Reese's.
Aside from flaccid, utterly dumb ads, the music seemed to more and more have little variety or experimentation in it. Meanwhile, label moguls joyously bragged of making nothing but hits. In other words, a fashioning culture which took no risks. So I started floating away from DJing in a quiet state of crisis, unsure of who or what I'd be if I wasn't a hip-hop writer. Around then, out of the blue, my friend Jill Nelson reached out. She thought I should apply for a fellowship at Harvard. In my mind, I dismissed the idea. but I didn't tell Jill. So she kept emailing me about it. Eventually, I applied, and only because I was becoming too embarrassed saying no every time she asked if I'd applied. On April 1, 2016, I got an email from somebody named Krishna Lewis saying I'd been accepted for a fellowship at Harvard. Since it was April Fool's Day, I assumed the email was a prank. It wasn't. Harvard was like a day spa for the mind. As fellows, we do our research, give talks, attend endowed lectures, and then go for great dinners at the best restaurants in the area. At one of these dinners, Skip introduced a guest he wanted me to meet. It was Junot Diaz, the Pulitzer Prize-winning, MacArthur Fellowship awarded Guggenheim Fellow and MIT creative writing professor. For me, it was like meeting Batman. As both a writer and an intellectual, Diaz seemed to be living the life I dreamed of. But as we spoke, I soon learned Diaz not only knew who I was, but was also a fan of my work. We exchanged data, and a week or two later, we met for sushi. I brought copies of his books for him to sign when, out of nowhere, he raised the subject of me coming to MIT. There was a fellowship in the memory of Martin Luther King Jr. MIT faculty could recommend nominees. It came with a measly $100,000 stipend. He wanted me to come up with a project we could propose. I felt lightheaded. I'd not expected this at all, and Juno was dead serious. I told him I would absolutely do this. And of course, I paid for lunch. This was in May 2017, and soon my time at Harvard was over, but I continued to work with Juno on the application throughout the rest of the year. Eventually, we finished it, submitted it, and got turned down flat. I felt pretty disappointed. But then I had an insight. There had to be lots of other places at MIT that would fund all kinds of proposals. So, hello? I called Ian Condry. He's in the English department at MIT, and he knew, he's the author of Hip Hop Japan, and he suggested I contact Iran Egozi. Iran was an MIT professor in music technology, but even more, he was the co-founder of Harmonix Music Systems, developers of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, the billion-dollar franchise which had sold over 35 million copies worldwide. I was a tad daunted, but I still emailed him because I had confidence in what I thought I wanted to do. And he was fairly open to it. So he called Evan Ziporin, who's the director at CAST, the Center for Art, Science, and Technology at MIT. The three of us had a conversation by phone, and both men listened thoroughly. They asked several questions. Then they said they'd do it. There was no, we'll get back to you in a few weeks, no phone tag. If funded, my residency would start in the fall of 2019, a year from that time. The budget wouldn't be $100,000, but it would enable me to pay myself a little bit, hire some help, and most of all, put a stake in the ground for my idea. So at this point, I should probably tell you about my idea. Now, I want to let you know, if you don't already, that call and response is a big part of music derived from African cultures, such as African American music. So this is the call and response part of my program. I'm going to ask you a question about performance numbers in groups, and let's see what you know, okay? Does everybody get it? Yeah. All right, let's go. In music of almost any genre, a performance by one person is called a solo. Very good. When performed by two, it's called a duo. Oh, you guys belong at Harvard. Very good. Three is called a trio. Wrong. A triad. No, I'm just kidding. It's called a trio. Oh, okay. You get that one. You get that one. All right, see if you know this one. 5 is called a. Very good. 6 is the 10. You're getting ahead. Did you know that was the name of Mae West's last movie, Sextet?
Really?
Yeah, it really was. It's also the name of 6 performing musicians. Very good. Oh, here's a good one. 9 players is a rare conglomeration, though sometimes seen in experimental jazz, and it's given the strange sounding and strange looking what? Ooh, we have some music majors in here. Very good. Excellent. Give yourself a round of applause. A round of applause. That was good. Okay. So I went to MIT and I told them that I wanted to form a septendectet. A septendectet. That's the name for a group of 17 players, what one typically finds in a jazz big band. In other words, I wanted to put together a big band, however, not a jazz big band, a turntable big band with 17 performers, 17 turntablists. And of course, what is a turntablist? Well, one proficient in turntablism, or the art of using the turntable as a musical instrument to produce entirely new musical compositions. Oh, that should be 34, because each DJ has 2 turntables. So the big band format was certainly, in part, an allusion to the history of sophisticated African-American music making and experimentation, the kind Dr. Tracy McMullen discussed as often being deferred in last week's Colloquium. However, my objective was to draw not only from jazz, but from the universe's entire history of recorded and or recordable sounds, running it through the processes to which DJs have exclusive access, hip-hop DJs, via turntablism. A DJ's needle, cutting and scratching a record, for example, is in contact with only about 10 square microns of the disc at any given moment, a surface area equal to less than a quarter that of a human blood cell. This may be the most tentative touch of any instrumentalist in any field, genre, or culture. Via the septendectet, I wanted to pursue some of the theoretical issues which turntablism raises as a form. For example, if one puts together a large number of highly capable hip-hop DJs, how does one best make this entity function in order to optimize both the live creation and delivery of music? What are the limits of the complexity with which hip-hop instrumentalists build structures, and what would be necessary constraints on such a compositional system? What kinds of technological and informational setups would need to be constructed in order to coordinate these 17 musicians' performances? What would be an appropriate authorial system for the purpose of generating useful musical scores? For what tasks would a band leader be responsible in such a context? Musicologically, is there a rhythmic island of stability akin to the much hypothesized one in physics? That is, a place where syncopated musical elements synchronize and generate resonant, self-sustaining effects, somewhat akin to a soliton wave in water. And most of all, when such a musical group possesses an extremely high commitment to syncopated playing and invention, the sound transformation prowess embraced by the modern scratch DJ, and C, the entire history of recorded sound as its palette, what's possible?
What's a soliton?
A soliton is a self-reinforcing energy wave. In water, what you'll see is if one is moving, it just keeps moving and doesn't stop until it crashes into something, but it has an unusually, if you will, you might say a high level of energy, but it's really just more the self-reinforcing nature of the soliton. And you see it in other phenomena, but it was first recorded in water. I think it was the 18th century. The scientists who saw it noticed that it kept going down a canal, and he followed it with his horse, this wave, and it just kept rolling. And he was really stupefied by that. So the question really is, what happens at higher frequencies or higher tempos, or when you have maximum numbers of events happening in turntablism? What might you hear? What might become possible? Thank you for the question.
None of these other people knew what it was anyway.
Yeah, I barely do either, so. Aaron and Evan gave me one critical piece of advice before agreeing to the project of the septendectet, and this is the advice that saved it. They said, iterate it. Start with something smaller in number, work it, manage it, then build up to the ensemble you have in mind. Much as I wanted to do my septendectet concept, I immediately saw the value of doing it as they suggested. So I counter-proposed we put together 7 musicians, and they agreed to 7, and I would call this ensemble Harbinger. A year later, in the fall of 2019, I and Executioner's DJ Rob Swift headed up to MIT to audition local talent. We packed our septet, and in January 2020, we came back to rehearse them for a show taking place 10 days later. As well, while I was up there, I taught a 6-part class on the historical development of DJing to MIT faculty, staff, and students. This was during the IAP part, between semesters. So we did this show in 10 days. It was incredible, and the entire project has been extremely gratifying. 8 weeks later, this happened.
Now the virus that we're talking about having to do, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. Typically that will go away in April.
I've spoken to President Xi, they're getting it more and more under control. So I think that's a problem that's going to go away. But when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to 0.
You get the idea.
That's a pretty good job.
Today, Harbinger continues to be my primary research focus as an artist. I'm tapping into parts of my mind, working and thinking, my mind, my work, and my thinking that I never have before, and helping develop a talented group of musicians, pushing them to become even more expert and adventurous. It's not easy. I have to find money for projects, meaning I have to think far ahead of when I need it. I have to deal with people. A year after founding the band, I had to let 2 members of our team leave. And now that the pandemic is over, I have to reimagine the future and plot how we'll get there. When I was just writing freelance, I didn't have to do any of this. For example, one of the core challenges when developing a DJ septet is acquiring suitable music. No 7-part turntable repertoire yet exists. No charts, no scores, no sheet music, no fake books, no tabs. Everything Harbinger plays must be built to elicit a bad pun from scratch. When Einstein performed his famed Gedanken experiment, asking, what would I see if I was riding alongside a beam of light? He wasn't thinking, this is how I can figure out special relativity. It was just a really interesting question without an obvious answer. Kind of like the question, what do 17 turntablists working in unison sound like? Iris Murdoch, the late Anglo-English writer and philosopher shown here with her husband, John Bailey, was quoted as saying, writing is like getting married. One should never commit oneself until one is amazed at one's luck. Iris Murdoch doesn't need me to say she's right, but just before I play some of Harbinger's work, I should add that exploring hip-hop as a creative researcher is somewhat similar. I can clarify this best with an example I've rarely shared in public. As I stated earlier, I've enjoyed a long and close friendship with Chuck D, founder and leader of the hip-hop band Public Enemy. A few years ago, Chuck and I were texting each other, discussing some proposal we'd gotten for a Public Enemy biopic, something akin to NWA's Straight Outta Compton a decade ago. You've seen this kind of film. The early days, how the group came to be, their rise to fame and influence, their downfall and resurrection, etc. When it comes to PE, both Chuck and I despise such approaches to the core. As we chatted, we started talking about the kind of stuff we love and would want to see. Then suddenly it hit me, a grand, unified statement of making art. It came fully formed, and when it did, I knew it was true. So I texted this to Chuck as we were having the exchange, and what I said, now I will share with you. Everything one does creatively should always provoke two feelings. A, this is hilarious. B, I can't believe I'm getting away with this. Then I said to Chuck, because I know you, I know when you made Rebel Without a Pause, you had both feelings. And Chuck texted me back one word. Exactly. Visuals are very important in conveying the meaning of your work. So I'm going to show some visuals and play some music that help explain Harbinger. Before I do, I'm going to, though, give special thanks to Hutchins event coordinator Justin Sneed. Justin does the art for all of our fellows' promotional flyers. You see them when you come into the building, telling you where to go, etc. And so when I went to him in mid-December, telling him I wanted an end of the world theme for mine, I was very specific about the design and gave a lot of details. When he wrote back, he thanked me for them and said he would do his best, but he was unsure. He sent his first draft, then second. We discussed, talked, refined, finished it, and you've seen the result. At one point, yeah, thank you. It is beautiful. At one point, I told Justin, and I meant it completely, this is my favorite thing in the world. And I think it still is. I mean, I look at it, and I just can't stop laughing. It's a masterpiece, and I thank him for it. Okay, let's watch some videos. They total fewer than 20 minutes in all. And the first is a Harbinger composition commissioned by the Library of Congress's American Folklife Center in summer 2021. It's titled Where the Movement Is. It was written and produced by Harbinger's the Don Santos, and is performed in order of appearance by the Don Santos, Axis Pro, Tree Man, Bobby Bangers, Emo Betta, Spectacular, and Private Peep Show. Further, it utilized the Library of Congress's own Citizen DJ software in its composition and production as a copyright-free source for all the sounds you'll hear. To make this video and this composition in the wake of COVID protocols at the time, Harbinger's members video recorded themselves individually, then their performances were joined in editing. As a result of that process, one gets a close look at Harbinger building a performance from top to bottom, as the sound is live, not synced. This is not something they synced to. They were performing it, we edited all that together. The second video you'll see, which starts at about the 3:45 mark, features approximately 75 seconds of DJ Irie. Irie is his real name. He's based in the Netherlands, and he's one of the best practitioners of what he calls cinematic DJing, or cine DJing, as I like to call it. Cine DJing uses the turntable and mixer to cut and scratch moving images. This is a minute-long excerpt, and it'll give you a sense of how it looks. With funding, we expect to bring Irie here to work on something akin to a turntablist scratch movie opera. Further, we've been talking with Rensselaer Polytechnic's Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center, or MPAC, about Harbinger doing a residency there this fall or next spring, depending again on funding. So what I'm really excited about is us not only mastering the Cine DJ process, but uniquely septupling anything we do in order to increase the number of events per second and heighten dramatic opportunity and rhythmic syncopation. These two works total 5 minutes. Let's make sure it is booming.
First of all, I feel very blessed. A wonderful thing to get a chance to live my life doing something that I love.
In this place, where the movement is, in this place, where the movement is, doing something with the rhythm, the love for me, doing something with rhythm.
A wonderful thing to get a chance to live my life doing something that I love.
Music can make me feel things in my body. Music can make me feel. Music can make me feel things. Music can make me feel.
It's a source of wonder, a constant wonder. It's a microcosm of life itself. It's a source of wonder, a constant wonder. If you try to take control of it, you tend to trip all over. A few words can change a lyric into really something meaningful.
Creating the ideas out of your own head, out of your own life.
Music can make me feel things in my body. Music can make me feel. Music can make me feel things. Music can make me feel.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
It's the magic, it's the charisma, it's the formula, it's the style. That's where you start getting into the force. It's the magic, it's the charisma, it's the formula, that's where you start getting into the force. It's that certain burst of energy, it's that certain movement. It's that certain burst of energy. It's that certain
Really draws you into it.
Music can make me feel things in my body. Music can make me feel. Music can make me feel things. Music body feel.
The music strikes everybody. It's interpretations of it. Talk to me. Tell me what's on your mind. Let me tell you stories, lyrics. Let me tell you stories, lyrics. Tell me what's on your mind.
Gentlemen, let's get down to business.
Are you ready?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Allow myself to introduce myself. My name is DJ Irie.
That's an interesting name.
Can you spell it?
My name is DJ Irie.
name is
DJ Irene.
Hi. My name is DJ Irene. You're goddamn right.
That's right. That's my name. I think I have something you might be interested in. But hey, enough of my yakking.
In 2022, my good friend Dwayne Alexander Smith asked if Harbinger would create theme music to play over the closing credits of the indie film he'd written and co-produced titled Pay the Lady. Here's a synopsis. Pay the Lady is an urban neo-noir thriller. Tired of being physically abused, Star Robinson, wife of drug kingpin Brooklyn Brown, plots to steal his Bitcoin fortune. To succeed, Star will have to lie, manipulate, seduce, and kill. In other words, she'll stop at nothing to come out on top. I'll play the trailer to give you a sense of the film's tone. Then I'll play the closing theme composed and produced by the Don Santos and performed by Harbinger. The trailer's about 80 seconds. It depicts sexual content and scenes of violence against women. The theme, which follows, is about 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Good morning, baby.
How was your swim?
Perfect.
You know business is booming, so
Hell yeah.
come on.
Today's our anniversary. Sorry, interrupted.
Stop.
Enough of this shit. He is over $2 million worth. Any ideas?
Use what God gave you to seduce one of them and get him on our team. And then we'll use him to take the other one out.
If we're not careful, she'll get us both killed.
And I think I got a way to show him that I'm serious. I'm gonna speak their language.
You put both our lives on the line. And if Brooklyn finds out, we're both dead.
We'll have enough money we can hide anywhere we want.
You don't steal from a man like Brooklyn and get away with it.
You do if you're smarter than him.
On Tubi. And this is the theme.
You never trust anyone.
You know how I get, baby.
No, stay out of your business. You never trust anyone.
You know how I get, baby.
Not even your mother.
What's that supposed to mean, Star? They know I don't fuck around. Answer the question. You got something else smart to say?
Please stop. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Please stop. Please stop. Please. Enough of this shit. Brooklyn will never touch me again.
Everybody's afraid of Brooklyn. You should try to get away from Brooklyn as soon as possible.
Brooklyn will never find out. So what are you gonna do about it? If you were smart, you'd realize that after what I've been through, I would never trust a man.
You got to see the movie, my man. Saltwater, as it's spelled this way, was produced by Mr. Len of Company Flow, where he was the DJ. And this is a demo of Harbinger's planned remake of Julian Lennon's 1991 record, Saltwater. The project was partly funded by New Music USA, and our version features Christian singer Sarah Groves in a haunting vocal. Now, we're going to play it last after the Q&A and after Krishna ends the colloquium, and it's 4 minutes. But right now, I want to talk about a very special project, one that we really think is very important. Jazz and hip hop have enjoyed many collaborations over the decades. I found most of them fundamentally unsatisfying and unadventurous. Our project, Harbinger, Serato and Sax, is designed to forge more dynamic real-time interactions between hip hop and jazz instrumentalists than have previously existed. The video featuring Harbinger DJ the Don Santos and saxophonist Adam Torres visualizes the Serato and Sax concept and how it's planned to work. This takes place once we overcome some of the technological, compositional, and budgetary, challenges embedded in this approach. We're currently seeking funding to develop the protocol, and also what you see, exciting as it is, must be considered against our plan. And that plan is not for one DJ to perform this way, but 7 at once, plus a jazz quartet, which is called a all right. You guys did good, though. This piece is 11. Yeah. This piece is 3 minutes. And again, this is not the process, but this is showing essentially how it would work in concept.
One, two, three, four.
Thank you. I will now take and welcome your questions, comments, suggestions, or complaints.
So what's the future for the project? What is its next iteration?
So the just one second. Did you need this back?
Is this on? Yeah. And you pronounce it
Harbinger.
harbinger.
Yeah, the
but
same
it's
way.
spelled like harbanger.
Yes, that's.
So what's that about?
Well, come on, man. Brother can't give all the secrets. No, I just wanted to twist it a bit, and one of my good friends calls me Har. He's the only one who does it, and I thought that and banger were a good alternate on harbinger.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
But when
thank you.
Pronounce it, you say harbinger.
Harbinger, just like the standard word, yeah. Something that leads to the future or foretells it.
Where does this go? What's its next iteration?
Well, it's a great question. So we're in a situation right now where we have, through attrition or other situations, been left with 2 of our original 7 members, who are both very faithful, and again, both here, Bobby Bangers and DJ Emo Betta in the back. And it was very interesting. It was a process by which this attrition happened after the pandemic and for various reasons. But one thing that surprised me was that I found myself still extremely thrilled about what we were doing. And as I told the gentleman, we're diminished in number now, but this allows us to rebuild Harbinger in your image as very faithful and very skilled artists. So a key part of the future is rebuilding our person power. And then becoming really just more adept with the process of being an independent band who functions on the basis of grants and other kinds of philanthropy. I was convinced from the beginning, given the status of hip hop and in general, and certainly turntablism within it, that Harbinger had almost zero commercial prospects in terms of something that we would get a label deal for. I never believed that would happen. I could be entirely wrong, but I just didn't believe it, just from looking at the environment. But I did think that we could be a hip hop Kronos quartet. I did see us as having the capability, and still do, to create a really unusual and interesting, if you will, line of attack for hip hop culture through popular culture. And I'm really committed to that. And I should say, one of the things I didn't get a chance to do at the beginning was thank people like Madeline Stasinski and Giles Lee and Sandy. Are you there? These are people who I've met in the process of being here at Harvard and being around the very developed non-profit financial development infrastructure. Boston's very interesting in that it's a small town, less than 1 million people, but it has everything that New York does in terms of culture and, if you will, capital and everything else. And so in my time here at Harvard, I've been able to make some connections with, I mentioned Madeline Stasinski, but I didn't mention Zoomix, which is probably the best thing that ever happened musically to young people. It's an organization that she runs that makes sure young people have access to music and other kinds of creative opportunities. And I found out about her by calling. I found her on the web. We needed a nonprofit youth organization to pair up with us, with Harbinger, when we were proposing funding for the Serato Plus Sax project. We ultimately didn't make that application. We're hoping to do so soon, but got in contact with Madeline, and she was just incredibly helpful and has continued to help Madeline, you're there, right? Where are you? There she is. Yeah, right there in the back. Help navigate this kind of landscape. So the short answer, as I'm thinking this through out loud, is that we're looking to rebuild our numbers and to do so with people that we can hire who are gifted, who are talented and committed, and who are willing to work in a ensemble. Not all DJs are. And then we're looking to kind of build up, if you will, our resources and our strength as a fundable body. And then start hiring composers, people like Irie and others, and keep making music and do it in a very interesting way, in a compelling way.
Great.
If I've answered your question.
Yeah, you have, sir.
Thank you.
Harry, thank you as ever.
I can't hear you, Murray.
I'm here. Now I'm here. Thank you. Pleasure as ever to hear your ideas, and
yeah, thank you.
Shared a little bit of this in a previous conversation. I get the
and again, if this is not implied, I just really have to thank the Hutchins Center and Harvard for it has been so rich to be at a place like this with a job like this, to try and figure out how to make projects like these grow and exist. It's such a privilege. It's such a pleasure. And if I had just one wish, I would stay another year.
Planting seeds, man.
Harry, sorry, I didn't hear.
I said if I had one wish.
I was texting. Huh?
I'm sorry, Murray.
You lucky.
I don't disagree with you, actually. Yeah. Yes, Murray, I'm sorry.
It's cool. I just wanted to ask, I get the creative inspiration side, the desire to build, to produce something that hasn't been done before, that sounds like, frankly, like something I haven't really heard before.
And to do it on a permanent basis, because there have been, I never explained hyperturntablism, and it's a term I use for ensembles of DJs that are larger, that are 5 members or larger. We do have some quartets in hip hop, but we don't have anything that's really large. But we've had some come together for a temporary time, an evening or an event, and then just disband. My goal is a company that works this way. So yes.
The other part of this, though, is I hear the building and the creation and this side of it. It sounds to me like you're going to have to also build an audience. Who's this for, and how are you going to find them? And in a way, how are you going to build them into understanding what you're doing and creating spaces where Harbinger would have a footing, would have an audience, and what's that side of it? Because I'm not hearing that part.
These are exactly the things that Sandy and I talk about, and I think you're absolutely right in terms of the question of who's it for and how do you build that audience. And what I can say is that I think the first step is just to do it. Part of the reason, and I don't think I conveyed this enough in my opening comments, part of the reason I wanted to do this was because as a writer, I was just getting tired of making recommendations and describing the things I wanted to see. And being at MIT and working on this project gave me a chance to actually do something and to be a part of hip hop culture as a creator in it. And so I could have just kept saying, we need to see more, ensembles of DJs, but I said, no, let's make one. And I think the first step of building the audience, I kind of believe, but I believe in the build it and they will come model, but I know that that's not exactly how things get done, and certainly not entirely. So I would say, I don't know that I have any particular insight on that. I think it's something that as we move forward, we will have to do things that bring an audience. We're gonna have to think more in terms of letting people know what we're doing and how we're getting it done, things that build community around the idea of such a thing. And talk to gifted experts who who work every day with questions like the one you just answered, if I had to answer it honestly, Murray.
Harry, thank you so much. This is a wonderful project, and if I may, I'm here. Harry,
Oh,
And if I
man,
may,
hey.
one of the best talk formats I've ever seen.
Oh,
My
that's so
question
kind.
is about your 2 characteristics for any creative work.
Yes.
I see very clearly that how the hell am I getting away with this? My question is about your first characteristic, this is hilarious. For so many of us, our work is rigorous and engaging, but I'm thinking about people in the room for whom this is hilarious is not the first thing that we'd say about our work. Why hilarity for you? Thank you.
Oh my goodness, such a great question. Because I think hilarity is the thing that touches you most where you live. Whatever you find hilarious is the thing that's got everything firing in you, the thing that's making it all come alive. And I think, it's like that saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I think it's kind of akin to that when you come upon an idea that you're like, I can't believe somebody hasn't done this already. Like, this is amazing. Like, you light up. And I think those are the things that commit you and that you keep going back to. I think delight is a thing that anyone can see and receive, and that all like to share. They like to share in the delight of others. And so I think it's for those reasons. I think that, I knew Justin had done the right thing when I looked at that flyer, and I just couldn't stop laughing at it. I was just like, this is it. This is it, because it's so gone, So I think it's for those reasons. I think it has to do with what makes you most alive. Like when you laugh really hard at something, time stops. And when you remember it, you don't remember how long you were laughing. You just remember the intensity of it. And I think in a similar sense, that if you can find things that you want to do that have that intensity built into them and that you can connect with, then you're safe. You'll never work another day in your life as such. Thanks for the question. It's a great question.
A very simple question. In ensemble music, usually musicians listen to each other to know how to, especially with improvisational music. And we saw some of that with the last piece that you played with the saxophonist. But I'm just curious, and you probably answered this, so forgive me if I'm
I'm
repeating
sure I didn't.
myself. I'm curious, how did the DJs listen and play off of each other? How did you actually, I guess, compose the music?
It's a great question. I'm happy to share. And I wish I had the documents here. I'm probably going to mess this up. When a composition is made, we create what's called a kit. And this was something I struggled with for a long time, just trying to figure out how would we have DJs do this. So we created a kit, and the kit consists of a few parts. One part is the entire composition played as it would be. Another part is the track that the DJ we want to learn apart is going to play themselves. So it's just that track of the 7 is just pulled out for them to hear it and learn it, memorize it, or change it. Then there's a version of the tracks that are everything but that track, so that they can kind of like listen along, if you will. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something. So the DJs learn to work with each other by themselves. Now, some of some parts of this question, I'm still trying to find the answers, because we've been kind of like stopped. We had this pandemic, and then afterwards it's been kind of bit trying to get us all to go again. These are mature musicians with jobs, and I'm just your humble visionary. So, I'm sorry. So, scratch that. So, there are a lot of questions about how Harbinger would and should work that I really don't know the answers to, which is what makes it so exciting for me. A lot of the question that you asked, a version of it at least, like in a live context, how do they hear each other? How do they know what the guy over there is doing? I think that's would ultimately, and Bobby or Emo might have insights into this, I think that ultimately would be some kind of board or patch or something that would do that. It's a question we haven't answered yet because we haven't done that yet. I want Harbinger to play live. I don't want it to just be a studio band, which we could be. The Beatles became a studio band after Sgt. Pepper. But
I think they should play live too because it is, improvisation music has been played
yes,
live since time immemorial.
Since improvisation, yeah.
So I do think. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do think that they should play live, and I think. I don't know. It's improvisational music, so
yes.
Whatever happens on stage, whatever mistakes or whatever happy little mistakes, so to speak.
Yes.
I think it should happen. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, and I'm sure the DJs behind you to your left would agree as well. And I'm sure Bobby especially, well, not Emo as well. We had we did a sojourn to, I don't know if you've heard of this place, Avaloq, in was it upstate New York? Oh no, it was over, was it New Hampshire? It was in Boston. That's right. That's why I didn't remember it. It's a really small town in New Hampshire. We went up there this past summer, and there's a kind of place where you meet other musicians, mostly working independently in various kinds of areas. They serve you great vegetarian food, and you just pretty much work on the things you're doing. And we had a great time meeting other people like us, not DJs necessarily, but people who were working independently and outside of the system of corporate music. And even had a jam session, which I wasn't able to attend, but the guys played, where a whole bunch of them just came together at our cabin. DJs with people blowing flutes and drums and stuff, like it was just crazy. And the guys were like high off of this afterwards. So yeah, we're not afraid of music. We're not afraid of anything. And we really see a place for all kinds of improvisation and meeting and working with other people. Thank you for the great question.
Yep. Hey, Harry, thank you so much. Pace from Mass Hip Hop Archive. Good to see you too. I saw Harbinger when it was the performance, and I agree, the performance is amazing. But let me ask you a quick question around the video, which I was really interested in, versus the audio. So one of the challenges I've found as a DJ and as an electronic music fan is when you're dealing with DJs and those kinds of like microscopic movements, it's very hard to connect that to the performance, what the audience is actually experiencing, right? So even if you watch the group of them performing, it's hard to tell exactly which one's on the drums, who's on the sound, who's on this, who's on that. Whereas with the video, you can see the microscopic movements of the lip, that microscopic connection between the video and the sound changes it for me. So I was wondering, just how do you communicate the complexity and the compositional nuance and the improvisation of the live DJ when you don't have and even if you have the hand, you don't know exactly what sound that is. So I'm just curious how you communicate the liveness of the audio without, and what the difference is there with the visual, maybe.
It's such a good question, in part because there was a earlier iteration of this talk where I thought maybe what I should do is show how a turntable works and what it is, et cetera. And you would think, well, no, you don't have to do that. But then I thought, well, most people don't know how most instruments work, actually. Like, I don't know how a trombone works, for example. I've seen them, I know what they are, but I don't really know how, I have a sense of how a violin works, but I don't know how you find your place on it. So I thought there might be a good place for that kind of thing. These are great questions. I've thought, for example, that when we did our live show at MIT, the way it was set up, it was a U shape. So when you walked in, Harbinger there, and Harbinger in front, and the bottom part was empty. So the guys were like about 10 feet from each other apart, working on their compositions. I've thought that it might be a good idea if you had like mirrors, like at a 45-degree angle above each person. So what you'd be seeing is looking down and seeing what they are doing as they're doing. Because when you're seeing it and you can't see the DJ, or you can barely see it, it's like a very difficult thing to like make sense of. I mean, thankful as I am to play these compositions before you, I wish you could all hear them in headphones. Like you could really hear like a lot of the subtleties in them. They're just like, I'm blown away when I see what my guys do. So I think these are, and I'm sorry to answer so many of these questions with, I think that's a great idea. I don't know what the answer is, but that's really the answer. I think that I'm so glad to see thinking, smart people here get it and are thinking about the kinds of questions that one has to address when they're working in this different mode and the things you have to account for, and there are many of the same things that other musicians go through and then different things. Because like I said, if your instrument is touching a surface that's smaller than what a blood cell is, you can make extremely subtle movements and no one even see you move. And so to connect that to what they're hearing is a challenge. So thanks for that question. I appreciate it.
Okay. Hi, Harry. Thank you. Yes, hello. Thank you so much for this. Yeah, great talk. And thank you for the brief shout out there. Because I am going to
Thanks for that presentation.
Well, yeah. So in my talk last week, so I was making an argument that early jazz, if you look at it, including all types of elements, including dance, you can see how women are involved in early jazz, right? And then what happens is, as jazz starts to be construed as great art and sort of taken out of a context and just sort of focused on music and in lots of ways, potentially focusing on composition and these types of things, it starts to move into a more, one could even argue, European patriarchy that also can support white dominance and things like that. So I'm just kind of curious, also in hip hop, I know that there's scholars out there who have argued, why are there just the 4 elements of hip hop? Why was like booty shaking not considered a 5th element of hip hop? Like why were the women dancing that were always brought along, particularly in certain, when the music's first starting out, you have these women dancing, but they're not named. They're not one of the key elements of hip hop. So I'm just kind of curious as I'm looking at this, it seems pretty male dominated, and I'm kind of curious,
When you say it?
Part like just in the sense of who the DJs are right. And so, and also just kind of putting it under this idea of great art and composition and, the fine-tuned details. And so a lot of context might be gone. So are you thinking about that in terms of moving forward and what you're sort of imagining this is sort of a future of hip hop? Do you have ideas about how are women going to be sort of something that you think you should actively sort of bring into this vision that you have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think DJing, I'm about to say is overwhelmingly male, but then the question is, what do you mean by is? Like where are the DJs? Where are they? A lot of them are not well known. A lot of them are working in other contexts. They're not necessarily public figures as such. And I think that there are a lot of things that work against, if you will, the visibility of women, or them even being in a place where you can say, oh, she's dope. I'd love to work with her. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I love my guys, but if Harbinger was all female, as long as they were like kicking it, great. And I don't know what else to say without sounding like one of those guys that says, some of my best friends are black. I mean, I don't want to say like I'm gender blind, because all it takes is someone of the opposite gender to say, no, you're not. No, you absolutely are not. But I mean, just personally, I just get a thrill when I see all kinds of people doing all kinds of things. I don't know if I'm answering your question even.
Maybe you could intentionally do some intentional.
That's actually a very good point. That's actually a very good point. Like, like in other words, to when seeking them out, like to say we are especially looking for X or this kind of performer or female DJs or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's a very good point. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what I should know this. It's amazing what you take for granted when you're a guy, like what you just assume is going to like work. So I'd love to hear more about that. But I appreciate your question. I probably didn't answer it, but thank you for it. Thanks for the thumbs up too.
So this might be a perfect follow-up. One is...
Who are you, by the way?
Nikki Green. And I think, too, you got to meet DJ Troy Frost, female DJ
Yes.
in Boston. So she's
Yes.
a great contact.
And I saw you dancing to her music, and I
Yes,
have
she DJ'd
video
my book party.
of it. And,
She might be listening. But what I wanted to
Yes.
mention with the video, the cinema DJing that you mentioned of
Yeah.
DJ Irie.
Yes.
Terry Lynn Carrington, the drummer
Yes.
and director of the Berkeley Institute of Jazz and Gender Justice,
Highly
would be
esteemed,
a great point of contact. She has been collaborating with Micheline Thomas.
The artist.
Yes, the visual artist, Micheline Thomas.
She's amazing.
And they have done a few mountings of these performances where, and I got to witness it in December at the Barnes Foundation, the Barnes Museum in Philadelphia, where Terry Lynn's band does improvisational music, jazz, and Micheline calls it VJing, where she responds with visual images.
Oh.
But the images are, at least in the Barnes, were projected not just behind them, it was projected on the walls. And so it became an immersive experience.
Very interesting.
So one, it offers a different kind of model of thinking, like especially with a live performance. And when you mention the mirrors, there may be a way to even think about it being an immersive experience.
Right.
And so as you start thinking about an audience, that I could imagine you kind of making it, it would be marketable for museums. It would be marketable for concert venues, where especially if you start playing with mirrors within the space, there are other models. You can bring in a visual artist that would actually kind of work with you and improvise along with the music in order to produce something that would gather a different kind of audience, that would, and also funding.
I know you're
sources.
very connected to this world,
Mhm.
and this is part of the art activity that has your attention.
Yes.
I really appreciate you saying these things because what I'm getting from what you're saying, the first part of what you said is that this is a musician who's working with artists who's already oriented in this way. And if you came with an interesting project or package, she might be already there and really down to collaborate.
Exactly.
Which is very timely, actually.
And then at Berkeley, you also have their interdisciplinary program that they just started, the electronic music program led by Neil Leonard. I think there are a lot of resources, even in the Boston area, of people you could work with that would be interested in collaborating. And then finding also new sources of funding.
This is great, and we'll follow up with you. And I'm so glad that Sandy, that we're seeing so many people who are thinking about like, how could I help or make this work? Part of when you're doing something like this, part of the way you feel usually is lonely. You usually feel by yourself, and we had a great conversation, the guys and I, and they're like, Harry, like, where are you? Like, I'm out here trying to make this thing happen. Like, well, talk to us. Like stay in contact. Like we had this great trip to MPAC in upstate New York. And then after that, they didn't see me for a while. I'm like, well, I'm trying to get this thing going. It's like, well, let's keep talking. Let's stay around each other. And I'm like, of course you're right. This is what I'm here for, So I really appreciate you saying that. And don't be scarce and pick up the phone when I call you. Wait a minute. I don't have your number. Who's next? Hey,
Harry, I don't have a question for you. I wanna.
You wanna put this on BET?
Nah, I don't want to do that. But what I will say is I remember sitting down.
I didn't
with
want to put you on blast, but
I remember sitting
old
down
slang,
with you
yes.
in Harlem. I think it's right before you moved to DC, and you shared this idea with me, and I remember sharing with you. I said, "How many turntables are you talking about?"
A little closer.
I said, "How many turntables, Harry?" And you kept sharing this idea, just something that you had in your mind. And I remember sharing with you that I thought you were a madman at the time, and I was like, I get it. Sitting on the corporate side of artistry, ideas, things that haven't been accomplished before, can be exciting, but it's also frightening. So I just wanted to applaud you for getting that out of your head and
Thank
into
you,
the
John.
screens and into the speakers.
Praise God.
Because that's 100% of the battle. So I just wanted to applaud
Wow. Thanks. Thanks. And I should say, I just want to also thank all the people who've helped us. John Fenn at Library of Congress was the one who said, why don't we do a couple of compositions and shoot video for it? And, that was in the pandemic. So it was a lifeline that we got. And I just thanked John just the other day, just saying, you don't know how much that meant to us that we have these short films of us performing. But I thank you for that, because I'm in confessional mode. There's, what are you laughing about? Because I'm in confessional mode, there's a whole part of my life that has to do with pulling ideas together and not executing them. And I'm so glad with the help of many good people that I'm moving more towards like having an idea and then doing it, and to have the opportunity to play these for you. Whatever you think of the work, whatever you think of it, just that you're here and gave me your attention for this is just a blessing, and I'm thankful. And thanks for your kind words. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We're going to take 3 more questions, and then I'm going to play Saltwater. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Is that
Harry, for this.
Bemmy?
This is me.
Bemmy Sola.
Yeah. So congratulations on
Team
this.
Bemmy.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations on this wonderful presentation,
That's very
and
kind.
thank you for sharing your vision of, shall I say, turntable symphony with us.
Wow. Thank you.
So I was struck by a couple of things. The first was the mashup videos. And it just struck my memory that I remember having seen something similar to this on like Instagram or TikTok, TikTok videos where people mash up. They put the song and intertwine it with the video. So you see, it's very comical, most of them. Along the theme of, it's hilarious. So it's very hilarious when you watch it. So I was wondering if in looking in your vision to expand your audience, for instance, have you thought about utilizing these different platforms? Because I think that
TikTok, right?
I think that while hip hop is both culture, it also is a product. So in a way, how could are you considering the idea or open to the idea of expanding your audience through these different platforms? Because I think that if people are able to engage with it, not just in, say, theaters or wherever, or in these different spaces, but right, on their hands through their phones, it could create more conversation around what you're doing.
It's very wise. Of course, I'm a person who understands the value of these kinds of being in these kinds of settings. Haven't done enough in it at all. I think it's required. I mean, despite whatever is going on with TikTok, it's here one day, gone the next, and then back. I mean, it's clearly, as are many other social media platforms, a big part of the way people make themselves felt and the way they find out about what other people are doing. So whatever would be the right way or a way that uniquely works for Harbinger, I would absolutely want to do that. I'm on TikTok myself, but I don't post, and I just read what other people do or watch it. So I'd probably have to get over some of that as well, but I absolutely I think for better or for worse, social media is obviously part of the way that people talk to each other and that the way they share ideas and things they believe in. And as I just wrote the other day, I think turntable music is untouched. I don't think it's been tapped yet, and that's a pretty powerful idea, and I want to share it. It's a kind of thing, though. I think ultimately somebody else, if I were working at the level that we need to work at, I think there would be someone else who would be focused on that kind of stuff. It probably wouldn't be me, but I believe in it. If that answers your question.
Thank you so much for this. Up here.
Hello.
Hey. So first, I just have to say, to amplify the Citizen DJ project is my favorite tool to use in the classroom.
Oh, wow.
It's the fastest way to get students to realize how hard DJing is.
Oh, wow.
You know, they kind of take it for granted, and you set them loose on this, and they're like, oh, this is really hard. And so and they make really cool things ultimately. But I was wondering how you would describe the ethic that you're trying to create among the DJs. Is this truly an ensemble where they each have a part to play and they stay in their register? Or is it competitive? Is it a cipher? Are you pulling them in? Do they duel with one another? What is the ethic at the center of this? And it kind of goes back to the gender question too, of that mixing, how would changing the personalities maybe introduce a new ethic?
So it's a question that the DJs who've worked in Harbinger would probably answer best. I think it's the kind of thing that should be open to all kinds of approaches. There are all kinds of ways that, the first thing you're working to get DJs over, I think, is just looking to one side and seeing another DJ there, and then looking to the other side and seeing another DJ there. Like, it's just not the way that most DJs work. And when I was working on the idea, and I would talk to friends of mine who were DJs, about the idea, this was to a fault, like almost the first thing they would say. To make it successful, you're going to have to work with people who are down to sublimate their will to the group, as opposed to being, the star, so to speak. I think out of that, if you can do that, if you can collaborate and enjoy it, out of that can come all kinds of approaches. And I'm not against anything. I think I want us to be funky. I want us to be syncopated. I believe that I'm not one of those people who, I think anything you do with music is harder when it's funky. Like, whatever kind of style of music you're doing, if you can make it funky, it just got a lot harder. And that means atonality or whatever, and if it's not funky, it's like, I don't think you're really there yet. I just think that's like another level, I think the music in heaven is funky. So, or a lot of it at least. So, or the hardest music to play. So, I don't know. I can't say there's anything that I'd be against or would not want us to try, but I just want to see us going forward. I want to see things that aren't done yet, that haven't been tried yet. I want to see difficult things. And how the DJs collaborate or work with each other, or how movement or performance works in the ensemble, how it shifts or changes. Certainly those are things that one would give instruction on depending on what one's trying to do, but it's also things that DJs can interestingly work out among themselves and probably create really interesting results as a result. So I'm, for it all, so to speak, if that answers your question.
Thank you. Final question. Thank you for your talk. And I actually feel like my question ties off into that, because I feel like, from my perspective, at least, this is a grand idea, and there might be I see two ideas at the core there that kind of fight between each other.
Oh, what are they?
And that's the question: is where do you see that headed? Is this an orchestra or a band, and who's composing for it, and how is composition done? Sounds to me like what you've did so far is compose. The DJs were the composers, and you improvised to create these tracks. You raised the question of notation, because I could see this also going in a way that the DJs really take themselves back as an instrument, and they are like, I mean, your grand goal is 17, you said, so we have 17 tracks that can be played and composed to. By whom? By these 17 people in themselves, maybe by hip-hop producers, jazz composers. Are you an orchestra and inviting, I don't know, Premiere to create a track for you? But then how would he, with the way he's working, you would have to be like in residence together to come up with this, unless you've tackled the notation side of things. Maybe even create now I'm a producer, so maybe even some of the smart people in Harvard create like a software where you compose for these 17 voices, and then, or do you see it more like this? No, we're just improvising kind of people, and there I feel 17 is an incredibly high number of people improvising off of each other. So my question, I guess, is: do you have this ultimate vision? Do we want to be an orchestra, or do we want to be a band? Or is it still up for discussion? And it kind of sounded like you were saying we could take this anywhere as long as we get rolling, so to speak.
Such a great question. There have been notational systems in DJing tried, and some DJs or I'm thinking of one particularly, and most do not. Most ignore it. The way most DJs learn, it seems, is by being shown by another DJ how to play this part. And that means either by listening to it and learning it, or being face to face with each other and learning it. And in my impression, most a written notational system that could work for DJs could be a great benefit. Could be. There might be any number of reasons why DJs might not want that or might reject it. I still think it may have possibilities. I mean, we just really have to see, you know. I certainly think the effort to develop such things are really worthwhile. I wanted to do the Septendectet because it was difficult, because I had no idea like what it would sound like. And everything comes down to what it sounds like. Like, what does it sound like? And so when I didn't get the chance to do that, for the reasons that I gave, working with Harbinger allowed me to do really everything else that I wanted to do, except have those 10 other DJs to deal with. So I haven't put a label on it in terms of like an ensemble or an orchestra. I don't know how those would change what we do or what we intend to do. In terms of composition, I mostly started approaching DJs about doing it because I felt DJs would get it. They would either get the idea or have ideas about how to do this. And what I found was that it was either absolutely yes or absolutely no. And mostly absolutely no. Like most DJs I talked to who I thought might have an eye on this, they just kind of stopped. It's like, I just couldn't. They just immediately saw it as either too much work or just too hard, or they probably maybe thought I didn't have any money. So all those things came to, but the ones who did want to do it were really gung-ho to do it, almost like they'd been waiting to be asked. And I think that it's a matter of finding more people like that, you know, who are really waiting to be asked. And they may come from all kinds of places. I don't know where, you know, but I'm eager to meet them. If
I may follow up, I just feel like 17 is a lot of
I think, do you have time?
Yeah, if I may follow up, I was asking because I feel like 17 tracks, thinking from a hip-hop producer's mind, is a lot. I mean, most hip-hop tracks have like 6 tracks or something, and that's plenty. So, and I feel like if you want to really, it's my feeling is that if you want to make the most of really having 17 people, you need somebody that is like accustomed to composing for that many different voices.
Yeah,
but
I
then,
agree with that.
Even if there would be a notation for DJs, the composers wouldn't necessarily know how to use it. you kind of would need like this translation thing to make it easier for composers to compose for these 17 tracks, and then from the DJs to get instructions, basically. So that's a grand vision I could see, which is really complicated but exciting in a way, to have like a hip-hop orchestra that can be composed for by people with the jazz background or whatever. But that's...
I think we're getting the signal to wrap up, so I'll just say this. One of my favorite scenes in one of my favorite movies, The Matrix, comes when Neo, on trying to figure out how they're going to save Morpheus, says, "We're going to need guns, lots of guns." And then the system provides, as if you've seen the film, like an almost unlimited number of guns of every variety. And then Trinity says to Neo, "No one's ever done this before." And he says to her, and this is my answer to you, "I know, that's how we know it's going to work." So I'll just kind of leave it there. Hey, Saltwater, you could listen to it or go get your lunch. My bride and I, Zakia, we're out.
We are a rock revolving around a golden sun. We are a billion children rolled into one. So when I hear about the hole in the sky, saltwater wells in my eyes. We climb the highest mountain, we'll make the desert bloom. We're so ingenious we can walk on the moon. But when I hear of how the forests have died, saltwater wells in my eyes. And I have lived for love, but now that's not enough. The world I love has died. Time is not a friend, friends we're out of time, slowly passing by, right before our eyes. We light the deepest oceans, send photographs of Mars. We're so enchanted by how clever we are. Why should one baby feel so hungry she cries? Saltwater wells in my eyes. Right before our eyes. Right before our eyes. Right before our eyes. And I have lived for love, but now that's not enough. The world I love has died. Time is not a friend, friends we're out of time, slowly passing by, right before our eyes. We are a rock revolving around a golden sun. We are a billion children rolled into one. What will I think of me the day that I die? Saltwater wells in my eyes. 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 wells in my eyes. Salt water wells in my eyes. Salt water wells in